This is Garrett Fry, the Shipyard Sequence Lead for 3D Digital Map Painting, and we're taking a look at shot 35. So we can see that it's panning over here to the left, and like with the previous shot, we have these amazing shadow shapes that are falling on to these shipping containers. So we're going to want to definitely keep all of this stuff. We are going to need to make some changes to the shot, however, because these are not high enough. So we're going to need to add just another row of containers to these here. And also we're going to need to add depth. And so we can lose this area here and then start building this up here. I mean, if it's easier, you'll just need to evaluate because the note is to give it depth. And so keeping this as part of the plate is great and then adding on to it. Otherwise, if it's not working for you, then you can just chop it here. And so we're just keeping this part and then the rest of this goes. So you have to look at it in the layout. This is coming over just quite a bit, and so it does kind of limit our view, quite a bit. So maybe starting them up here and going along this same line might give us more depth than just keeping these. So, but like I said, go ahead and do your layouts, do your iterations of layouts so that you can have a nice design. And see if you need to keep this guy or not, because it's kind of optional there in the back. You will need to make sure it recedes back, and when you're doing these shipping containers, you want to make sure that the quality is the same. And so you can see on some of these that there's a bit of a specularness to them, and so you're going to want to make sure that you're especially in this area here where the light is. So when you're adding your shipping container up there, it should have the same kind of specular level to it. And then having little oddities in your shot, like here you can see there's a bit of orange right here. So you can tell on this opposite side there's an orange shipping container in the midst of all of these gray shipping containers, and it's giving up this little bit of bounce light right there. Super subtle, but it adds so much to the realism. Also, like right here, you can see all of these lines in the shipping container, and you can see how irregular they are because they've been banged and they're all dented and stuff. And a lot of the CG, well, all of the CG stuff doesn't actually have any of those dents or irregularities in them. There's irregularities in the textures because they're photo modeled, but the models in that way do not have a lot of damage and things to them. So if you put your 3D renders in there, they're all going to look very perfect. And so you're going to want to go through and kind of damage them up. And so some of the specularity is hitting and more than in others. So this is a really good example if you're looking right here. So each one of these lines has a slightly different width to them or a slightly different brightness. And so that variation is great, and that's what you're going to want to put in there. While working with these 3D assets, that's the thing you're going to be fighting against. So it's a good idea to go on top and of your 3D renders and just kind of make some paint adjustments to them, or go into 3D and like really start hammering that thing with high res and start putting in some detail, some irregularities into it, so that it matches some of the things that are in set. But yeah, so once you have done the layout on this and have a really good design, go ahead and execute on it and make sure that we're getting depth and adding these shipping containers on top. Before you jump into these shots, it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the resources you have available to you. Decide if you're going to use an environment TD, a matte painting, or a matte painting generalist approach. There are 3 sets of shipping container photos and a bunch of images for texturing. Also, make sure you take advantage of the high-resolution shipping container assets with 3 different level of detail models.